I think I want to review the Of Montreal album. I mean, it is pretty great and really critically underrated at this point. Well, it's got like a 63 on Metacritic or something. But I am working on my own music now, and that's pretty time consuming. Plus, writing review scripts is like one big game of Mad Libs at this point. Might as well check YouTube, see if anyone else has done a review of it. Who needs an adjective? Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Spin It Reviews, and today I'm going to be talking about the new album from Of Montreal called Innocence Reaches. Now, if you want to know more about my general initial history with Of Montreal, I suggest clicking here for my review of their last album, 2015's Aureate Gloom. Just forgive the god-awful lighting. To sum it up though, this long-running and extremely prolific indie rock act was one that I admittedly only hopped on the bandwagon of sometime last year, after falling head over heels for their 2007 opus Hissing Fauna Are You the Destroyer. Since then, I've checked out a couple other albums of theirs, but in all honesty, with 14 albums over a 20-year discography, it'd be a pretty staggering task to start binging at this point without giving up, a few weeks of listening time to anything else. Anyway, in typical Of Montreal fashion, just over a year later, we already have the follow-up to Aureate Gloom, called Innocence Reaches, which Of Montreal mastermind Kevin Barnes said would not only have the same inspiration from his recent divorce that Aureate Gloom did, but would also be the first time in his long career that he's taken inspiration from current music, name-dropping everything from Arca to Chairlift to Jack U. God help us. But you could see a lot of those influences coming through in a cool way, especially on the singles from this thing, like It's Different for Girls and Let's Relate. The former takes on the kind of disco jam vibes we saw on Aureate Gloom's lead single Bassam Sabri, but in more of a polished pop sense, throwing in these nice glistening synths in the chorus on top of a syncopated bass line throughout that's simple but effective. Meanwhile, Let's Relate opens the album guns a-blazing on this new synth-pop angle, transitioning smoothly from an epic-sounding synth tone in the verses to the grumbling low end that takes over the bridge. And the chopped and screwed vocal sample synth riff that pops up here is just so infectious. Seriously, if these guys had a crossover hit this late in their career, this song would be it. Now, stepping back a bit, normally an indie rock act like this, taking on more of a contemporary synth-driven pop aesthetic without some reverb-coded grab for irony cred, would be pretty divisive among fans. But luckily, since Kevin's always had this kind of flamboyant, larger-than-life demeanor to him in his whole presence, he actually slides into this lane very naturally. We see the sonic direction explored more on tracks like A Sport and a Pastime, which sounds like it took a ton of influence from like Joel Little's production work with the skittering percussion, minimal synth work, and excellently arranged self-backing vocals, or trashed Exes, which takes on, dare I say, some trap-influenced percussion and filters it through Kevin's crazed kaleidoscope of coolness. Alliteration. The songs My Fair Lady and Nursing Slopes are probably the moments that meld this the most smoothly with what I've at least gathered to be Of Montreal's typical sound, and for fans of their more raw and a kind of aggressive side, Gratuitous Abysses brings in some awesome garage rock riffage, as well as one of those trademark Kevin Barnes moments where he takes just the most abstract phrases and makes them the catchiest damn thing you'll hear all year. Gratuitous Abysses! And with Def Pax and KS Arpeggiating bringing those trippy psych rock vibes with some memorable riffs to boot, Innocence Reaches is a lot less of the total 180 you might have thought this would be from the singles. I really can't imagine Of Montreal fan being alienated by this as a whole. I mean, even on Hissing Fauna, he was still essentially writing weird, eclectic pop songs. Not to mention that after Aureate Gloom, it's nice to hear an album that actually sticks to one song per track. Like unpopular opinion time, I checked out Skeletal Lamping before getting into this one, and just left frustrated by how annoyingly schizophrenic it was with its ideas. Innocence Reaches is a lot more straightforward while staying diverse from track to track, and to me that's only a good thing. Of course, the other thing that makes this record a considerable step up for me is the lyrical content. Like I said, this is the second album Kevin's written since his recent divorce, and out of the two, this feels more like the confessional, relatable take on the themes that might come with that. Aureate Gloom was fine for the cryptic nature it was was going for, but in my opinion, there's more to directly connect to here, you know? What I really love about what Kevin does with this is that he doesn't go totally one note with the ideas like a lot of breakup albums in this vein tend to do. It's not all, I'm the victim and you're a monster bully, yeah, or I'm sorry baby girl, please forgive me, let me come back to you, or I'm strong and over this and independent now, but a nuanced combination of those three things and more that's honestly a lot more believable. The first two tracks probably have the least to do with the album as a whole, but they do in a weird way ease you into the themes that will be presented. Like Let's Relate is a pretty self-explanatory as a populist anthem for connecting with people of all walks of life, and trust me, it's a lot less hippie-ish than making it sound. Then It's Different for Girls dives headfirst into the gender dynamic of it all, both sticking up for the unfair treatment women get on a daily basis, and equally being confused by some stuff that they do. And Kevin somehow makes a song like this from a man that doesn't sound super patronizing, at least from my point of view. I don't know how my female viewers take this. Do I have female viewers? I don't know. Let's move on. It's a bit childish in the broader strokes, but you can tell it's intentional, and with the musical backdrop of it all, you can tell it's meant to be more playful in its commentary style. The rest of Innocence Reaches is a much more complicated picture as it goes along, as we see this guy just after this bad breakup, where he's trying to process everything that just happened, and with a surprising amount of self-awareness in his own thought process, as on Gratuitous Abysses he says, I must vilify us to make you special. I know my compass is beyond retrieval. What Kevin really puts across well here is kind of a subtle indecision as to how he should see this girl he was with. You see bits and pieces throughout most of these tracks of different aspects of her as a person, mostly depending on the song. Take A Sport and a Pastime, for example, a relatively straightforward love song about wanting to give yourself up to someone you connect with on a deeper level and all that nice mushy stuff, but put next to, say, My Fair Lady, where her own deep-seated mental and emotional issues lead to a maddening drift between the two, in context it's actually pretty heartbreaking. And on that track, Del Pax and Les Chance Del Mardor, he's not afraid of directly calling out that she tends not to take responsibility for these issues, instead surrendering to them or pawning them off on him instead of trying to properly rise above them like he's trying to with his own issues. The best showing of all this comes on Chaos Arpeggiating, where his wife took the house, leaving him alone in an apartment, and justifiably pissed that he's the one taking all the punishment for what's gone wrong. And we get a nice resolution after that on Trashed Exes, aka Kevin's Shakespearean-like equivalent of throwing your hands up and saying, screw it, I'm out of here. And yeah, what makes the storytelling on Innocence Reaches all the more engaging is, like always the Montreal, how incredibly clever Kevin is with his word choices. For all any fellow songwriters out there, you know that feeling when you're writing lyrics and you just happen upon a combination of words that sounds really smart and you're pretty sure it hasn't been written before but it just sounds really cool? Yeah, this guy does that like 100 times per album. But here he's wise enough to get a lot more honest and blunt at times. Think about it as the indie rock version of what Aesop Rock did earlier this year with The Impossible Kid. Keeping it kind of cryptic still, but pulling back the curtain just enough so that anyone listening to it can connect with it on some level. My only real issues come in some of the more mean-spirited jabs at the girl peppered in a few tracks here and there, and Chap Pilot was honestly an underwhelming closer compared to everything else, especially after, again, Trashed Exes would have been a perfect way to end it thematically. But Innocence Reaches is still a fantastically written and performed record that I'll be generous and give a very light 9. If you're a fan of indie pop, indie rock, and neo-psych, and want an album of lyric porn you can really sink your teeth into, I highly recommend this. Check it out, and let's relate. So if you guys have heard this album, what do you think about it? Do you agree with what I had to say? Do you disagree? Have any feedback about the channel in general? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, I'm going to be doing a little contest for you guys. So this CD came with a download card for some reason. I mean, you can put that in your computer, but I guess some laptops don't have that anymore. So I'm going to be giving this away to one lucky viewer. What I want you to do is link this review on Twitter and tag me at SpinItReviews. And the first person I see doing this, or hopefully the first person that does it at all, I'm going to be giving the code for this download card. Anyway, share this around with anyone who might be interested. Follow me on Twitter for more updates, and hopefully I'll see you in the next episode of Spin It Reviews. Bye.